is that, is it so that the person who is worshipping, is religious, is praying, are those people, is that person in their own right also themselves? Whether there's a place for me in heaven or not, I cannot not be me. I'd like to start by asking for each one of you, if for those that want to, in the chat, write some things, a question or a statement pertaining to this topic. Just as open as I'd like to hear or see what's on your minds. So in the chat, please type in any question or statement or concern or doubt. Okay, so I'm just going to read them and not respond, but just read the points. Religion is very important to me. Why does religion create more division instead of unity? How can religion be a crutch? And it is said that religion is man-made. So these are interesting comments, interesting pointers, and I'm going to reserve adding anything to it. My stance is going to be from a different point altogether. So my first point that I would like to add to this topic of using religion or worship to feel complete. So that's the topic, Linda, that you asked me to set the scene about. So I'd like you to realize everything that I'm saying is not what I read anywhere, not what I want to reflect as my own, as a contradiction or adding to it, but coming from a completely different stance, typically how Emmanuel sees things. So whenever I go to a new job, for as long as I can remember, whatever I find there, I automatically, from very young, automatically, from my very first job, I institute, from the moment I arrive, some things to make it better for everybody that works there. In some way or another, I want to make it better. At a particular point, I worked at a company, a corporate company, who had severe reputational damage. Very, very big company, international company, and they had caused severe reputational damage. And they went on a rampage and a campaign worldwide. And there were some values that they said that we would want everybody in the company to be aware of and transition to. And one of them was stewardship. So I read up on stewardship, and the little tagline below stewardship, where that was mentioned, it said, leaving the place better than you found it. So these are just ad lib. I don't know if those were the exact words, but that was what I understood from what was written there. When you look in the diary under stewardship, you won't find those exact words, but you're going to find similar words to that, a similar meaning. So now I say, okay, wait, if Emmanuel is that way inclined, that he would like to make a difference wherever he goes, not because I'm sitting there thinking, how am I going to make a difference? But that's just my nature. I then say, if I was religious, or if I was following such practices, I wouldn't only want to worship, I wouldn't only want to be religious, I wouldn't only want to pray. And then leave the work to heal us as a species over to somebody else. I would want to roll up my sleeves and be part of that. So I'm saying, people, please be religious, please worship, please pray. But I am going to walk away from doing that only. I'm going to want to contribute. My contribution, I would want to somehow address what I see as there's no peace among humankind. There's absolutely no peace. In individuals, there's no peace. In families, there's no peace, but I need to just state that I'm talking generalizing now. So there are families who are at peace. I'm 100% convinced there are also individuals that are at peace. But if I look collectively, I see that peace is lacking per se. And me being me, I went and I dug and dug and dug very deep, and I found what the root cause is of why there is no peace. And so I set on my journey to find ways to convey that message, and tonight here on this platform is part of me conveying that message of the inner peace. To me, looks, generally speaking, missing. And as each of us evolve our inner peace, so would we eventually, with humanity, evolve this inner peace. So I'm not going to wait for anybody else, a divine being of sorts. I'm not going to wait for somebody else to evolve that inner peace. In the meantime, my sleeves are rolled up and I work feverishly with every breath that I take to bring to who is interested my discovery of how I saw how the peace was lacking in my life, the inner peace, and just maybe somebody else would want to see that and also evolve that inner peace. And Linde, one of the taglines that we use is, whatever I do, if that behavior and those actions is for the benefit of everyone and everything, and I mean by everything, the sea, the forest, how we leave when we go into a shopping center. Do we carry the things with us and put it in a bin? And if you don't find a bin, you put it in something and you go and bin it at home. So the everything is my environment. The everyone is starting with me and everyone else. Now, I coined that phrase and I looked for that phrase very carefully so that it has no judgment in it. It does not exclude anybody walking on this planet, be it any race, any gender, anything. If my behavior does not benefit everyone and everything, I need to have a look. So built into that statement is that my actions and my behavior bears the fruit of inner peace. Now, I can't wait for anybody else to do that. I don't want to wait for anybody else. I don't exclude anybody or anything. Everybody's welcome to join in on wanting to evolve that inner peace. Now, you may ask, but wait, Emmanuel, how is it possible that any one individual could evolve inner peace? It's not possible for an individual to evolve inner peace. In my own life, I found that the more I behaved in a certain way, the more I saw how and the way I was living before was not about anything other than me wanting to satisfy me. And it didn't matter if it was at the cost of everyone and everything. I didn't care. I wasn't even aware. So what I found is that the moment I saw, oh, but wait, the root cause of why we haven't got inner peace has got a fundamental principle. And once we get that, we don't look for ways to do it because we are it. Okay, so coming back now to the points, I wouldn't want to only worship. I wouldn't want to only pray. I wouldn't want to only be religious, or all of those together. I would want to also, at the same time, be me 100%. And that is how I see the point that we are talking about is what's missing is that, is it so that the person who is worshiping, is religious, is praying, are those people, is that person in their own right also themselves? Then the story is complete. Okay, so that is my setting of the scene. I'd like to just look at the questions, the points that I got in the chat. So if I look at religion is very important to me, are you as important to yourself? Why does religion create more division instead of unity? Seeing as that's a question, I would want to answer that question because in each individual, that individual is missing. And if you want to ask me a little bit later, well, what is that driving that individual? We could go there. How can religion be a crutch? So my view is the moment I am not being me, I'm not evolving my inner peace. And from how I see it, I am taking to be me. And to be me, I don't need anything else first. And then if we come to the other point, yeah, so religion is made by us, and that helps us to understand what's going on around us, but up to the point where we don't see the significance of me, of myself, and the role that I could play. If I arrive anywhere, would I roll up my sleeves and pitch in? Or am I going to sit, somebody else must pitch in, I'm not pitching in. So from that sense, I like that statement about that it's made by us. Okay, so that in a nutshell, Linda, is setting the scene on this topic. I'd like anybody to type in more points or questions or even ask. You don't have to only type it. You could also even ask that in whatever we do, am I present? 100% present. And when I say I mean every person. Are they present? Okay, so that's my setting the scene. Anybody have a question or a doubt or a pointer or anything? Now is the time.
Emmanuel, I have a question.
Sure.
Just to come back to how can religion be a crutch? So you're saying the moment I'm not being me, I'm not evolving my inner peace, I am taking. So in the sense of when I am worshiping or I am praying, is that really a form of taking? Can we unpack it a little bit?
Definitely, Linda. Very, very interesting question. Very interesting question. Let's see if I can, in few words, unpack that as you say. So let's use this as an example. Let's use this as an example. Let's say, Linda, that you and I are working together. And instead of me thinking for myself, I come to you every time, please help me figure this out. Please help me figure this out. Where am I then in my life? The crutch is I'm always asking you to help me solve this thing.
So then you're not taking any responsibility for your own life.
Well, I'm missing in my life because I don't want to take that risk of making some decision And let me ask anybody, why am I not wanting to make the decision? Why do I, in our example now, Linda, why would I want to come to you to ask you for guidance? What is at play there?
Probably afraid of being right or wrong, or not making the right choice, or
Yeah. Yeah, so let me ask another thing. I notice I want to exaggerate. I like bringing the point with exaggerating. I see people would go to somebody else. What do you think of this? What do you think I should do in this case? Should I drop my partner? Should I get divorced? Should I buy this car? Should I buy this house? I got to go to my mom, my dad, my sisters, my friend, and all of that is just make the decision. It comes from my heart. There is no right and there is no wrong. Just make the decision. If you go down that path and it doesn't work for you, you just rewind. And the more often you do that, the easier it becomes to just make some decision. So in that way, I see it as a crutch. Let me share something which I don't think I wrote in the book. And I may have written this. I'm going to, after this get together, go and look if I did write it there. I used to pray. I used to pray, definitely. And as my journey evolved, I realized the dynamic at play while I was praying. Who wants to hear from Emmanuel what that dynamic is? The dynamic, I see a lot of heads nodding. Linda, the dynamic is that when I was praying, I would never lie. I would tell it as it is. I would have the courage to say the brutal honesty, to say what it is. And therefore, I heard what was actually the undercurrent of whatever was at play. And in hearing it, I then had the mechanisms to unravel it. So I exchanged praying for having a look at what it is really that at that moment I'm struggling with, and just be brutally honest with me and just have the courage. And I write about that in my book, where I say you need this brutal honesty and you need this courage to hear and to look at the undercurrent. And let us say each time I want to make a decision that I come to everyone that's attending here tonight. Let us say that every time I do that, I hear your opinion, your opinion, your opinion, your opinion, your opinion, and I take in that you nudge me in this way and I nudge that way, and eventually I make some decision. Was it really truly me? And if I I use the hand analogy a lot. All these parts making up this hand, they all need to play together. They all need to work together to be able to be this hand. And as individuals who are independent, because they independently figure things out for themselves, they then play together in a group, and they don't take, they contribute their own personality, their own strengths. Did I answer your question? I said I was going to do it in fewer words, but I just rolled and rolled and rolled with it.
No, that was perfect. Thanks, Emmanuel. Okay, I have another question.
Sure, please.
So let's take another example. For instance, I used to be a smoker. I would smoke on and off and quit, and then I'll start again. And every time I have to quit, it gets harder and harder. So the last time I had to quit, I asked for divine intervention. And I want to say, in a sense, it actually kind of worked, and I put my attention out there and, and I said, I need some help because this is a very difficult thing for me to do. And then it helped. So in that context, because I mean, a lot of people do need help with certain things that they need to overcome, or, in that context, with what you are saying, how does that work?
Okay, Linde, I invite you to write about, in your own memoirs, in your diary, and if you haven't got memoirs that you write or a diary, write somewhere at that time all the dynamics at play. And I would be very surprised if the aha in there was not the principle of you being brutally honest with yourself and also tapping into the courage. It's not a very difficult dynamic. What I found is, and I said this in previous of our discussions, that I would behave to be accepted in a certain way by the person, and I would tell the story in that way. So I knew the person's vantage point. I would then tell it based on that vantage point. And of course, in that way, I would then get accepted by stating whatever I wanted to state, because I stated it to be accepted. So I wasn't present at all. But that is a difficult dynamic to say I was not present. But if I wanted to be accepted, it has to mean that I didn't feel okay about myself. So write your memoirs, write in your diary, and recall the dynamics at play and see, maybe it was not what I am saying. I mean, I don't have all the answers, but it would surprise me. And just coming back to the previous point that I made, we are not, and I'm using, let me just rather say, I was not okay with myself, and therefore I behaved in a certain way. Had I been okay with myself, it has to be that I would behave in another way. Not being okay, and I was sharing with you, Linde, and I did it in a way for you to accept me. Do you see that I was taking?
Sure, I never looked at it in that way.
But you get the point. I'm taking your acceptance away for me.
Sure.
I wanted to maybe just say ABC, blue, red, or pink. But I didn't dare say that, because what if you didn't accept me?
Yes.
Let me tell you how far I took this in my smoking days. So I used to smoke, and later on in life, I started smoking cigars. So I would have fairly expensive cigars in this pocket and less expensive cigars in this pocket, because I knew friends and colleagues would come and say, Emmanuel, haven't you got a cigar for me? Then I would go into the less expensive one and I would keep the expensive.
Okay. Okay, so can I ask you another question?
Yes, Linda, let me just say, the first time I stopped smoking, I was 16. First time I stopped smoking.
Okay. And then when did you officially, eventually
I was
quit?
roughly 40. And it was very easy. I saw why I started. I realized I outgrew that need, put the cigarette down, and that was it.
Mm. Okay. So my next question is, we often speak about how our standards and norms has shaped all the systems that we are part of today. So would you say that religion was part of something that we created, in the sense of having certain standards and norms?
Linda, I'm not exactly sure whether I understand what you're asking, but let me reflect back and then you just say this way or that way.
Sure.
So I don't think in our time, and I mean the last in number of years, is where religion was born, or worshipping was born, or praying was born. It comes from way, way, way before now. Are you asking about that? Okay. And of course,
Yes.
as we grow up and we go to school and we go to church because everybody's going. I mean, I used to go. My parents were very religious, hence my name. So I used to go, I used to listen to what the minister said. When I asked people afterwards, did you get that very interesting talk about what the minister said, or the preacher, or the pastor, or whoever it was? And people would say to me, what are you on about? We didn't listen. But I wouldn't participate by going there and not listen. So it was very important to me to hang on every word. So it is in certain, I would say, upbringings, part of the culture. So we are naturally flowing with the culture. So it is part of the curriculum in some schools, in some cultures, etc. So it is just exactly part of everything. In the same way that money is just part of everything, and you don't want to get me going on money. So it's part of everything. Hence, we could look at it collectively. In some cultures, it's part of the standards and norms, not necessarily in all cultures. And therefore, we automatically follow what our parents tell us or what the school tells us or etc. Is that what you are asking? Did I answer your question? I'm not exactly sure.
Yes, you did. Thank you very much.
And just by the way, Linde, one of the very big steps I took when I started seeing life can be different in my quest of the search for meaning, one of the very, very first things I did was reach out to the church, ask them to come and visit me. I informed them I was walking away from it. For these reasons, could they please tell me, as I was saying, now, we ask this person, that person, that person, that person to help us make decisions. And in that same vein, I asked, I want to walk away for these reasons. Could they please guide me from their stance? Am I really serving myself to do that? Or am I causing detriment to myself? So that was one of the very, very first things, if not the first thing I walked away from.
May I ask what you you asked them? Can you
Linde, I,
remember?
for instance, shared what I shared now about praying. I saw that it was not that somebody was doing something for me. In my brutal honesty, I could see the undercurrent, and that then made it very easy for me to make the consequential decisions. I also shared, for instance, that I was brought up in such a house, therefore I went. I remember at boarding school, we had to go to church. And after a while, I went out, but getting to the church, I used to sit in the veld outside the church. And when church was over, I went home, back to the boarding school, so to speak. So have I done the whole lot? So those were things I shared at the time. I said, why?
Yes, for me, I was quite intrigued and excited, because religion is such a big part of our upbringing and our conditioning. So there's a lot of layers to unpacking all the things that you've learned through your life that is not serving the greater good of you or anybody else around you for that matter. So, and a question that I also came up that I'm pondering is, we speak about addressing the root cause, but is there only one root cause that relates or that translates to everything that you do from not being yourself, or is there a specific root cause for each and every different thing that you act upon from not being yourself in that manner?
Okay. So, Pierre, I would like to give an example. It's a practical example, and it's an example that fits me from coming from a technology background. Let me give an example like this. Let's say you go to the ATM and you draw 100 Rand, but it extracts 1,000 Rand off your account. It debits your account with 1,000 Rand, but it only gives you 100. And there is a big sign there. If this happens to you, phone us. We're going to fix it in 2 minutes. And you then phone and they fix it in 2 minutes. And we all become used to, sometimes when we go to the ATM and we draw money, there's going to be a glitch. In some cases, you draw 100 Rand, but it puts 1,000 in your account. And if that happens, phone, we're going to fix it quickly. Or you go to the bank, to the ATM, and you draw some money and it debits it from somebody else's account. And you see this, please phone, we fix it, chop, chop. And all banks worldwide have rooms full of people, hundreds and thousands of people sitting there waiting for that call, Pierre, to quickly help you. And please remember, I like to exaggerate to bring a point. Now, if I came to hear about that, I would say, come on, that's crazy, people. Let's just find why it's not working right and fix it at the root cause. Yeah, but in that case, we're going to have to lay off thousands of people worldwide. Okay, I'm setting the scene. Here, so in the very same way, if anybody is not being themselves, the behavior, whatever that might be, is like that ATM system. It's unpredictable. It does some things, and there are many, many people to fix it. Let me give an example to fix it. There are courts because people are not honest. There are policemen because people are not honest. There are watchers over the police so that if the police aren't honest. So, example, I, for instance, had my motor vehicle license renewed. So my driver's license renewed. And when I got there, the service was excellent. But I had to refill in the form. They have all my information already. I had to refill in the form. Why should I fill in the form? If I go to a hospital or a doctor, I have to fill in the form with my information. It doesn't make any sense to Emmanuel. Why can't I just give my ID number as an example? And there is a central database that has all my information for everyone. And I just, let's say, I would like to take it a step further. There's a chip in my shoulder. I'm taking it too far. Let me take the chip out quickly. I have something, let's say my fingerprint, wherever I go, I just put my fingerprint and I don't have to refill in any form at all. Why should we do that of filling in forms everywhere where we go? So these are all examples of things that we have created that don't serve us. We serve it. And when we switch from not being ourselves to being ourselves, all these things would go away. So the only root cause of all these things is that I am not being myself.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you, Pierre. To you too for an interesting question. Anybody else got an interesting or a concern with what I'm saying? Pierre?
When we do say that there would be no need of any of that, or that being including the fingerprint, the chip, because we would not have to need another person's credentials or to confirm it, because everybody would just be acting from their own self or from their true self, and everything would just be done in the correct manner without having to double check or to second guess anybody.
Yeah, Yes, in essence, you are spot on. I'm sure if we unravel this a little bit further, we would see that we might need to have a central database. But you're quite right. Who says we need a central database? Maybe it's just the techie in me that says we need a central database. I mean, if every one of us is exactly ourselves, I walk into the hospital, there's a doctor, and the doctor is going to treat me. I walk into the dentist. I would like to say we would also go to hospital less often. We would also go to dentist less often. Why should I have a driver's license? Why should my car have a license? These are all constraints, human created, because there are people that would want to buck the system. How many constraints do you think humanity created to want to control humanity?
A lot.
Almost everything that exists.
As many as is needed, and I suppose there's always needed.
Well, Pierre, and then once that is there, somebody tries to buck that one. They go for it to buck that one. So we need to have another one on another one. So are you able to see if we take all of this away and we say, okay, wait, I'm just going to be me from now. My life is about integrity. How many things would go away automatically overnight? So I would like to just say, that's why I say often, every breath of mine must count, because that's the size of what I would like to bring as part of inner peace. That's the side of the project that Emmanuel sees needs doing. So this behavior of mine that says my actions and my behavior is for the benefit of everyone and everything, I would continue doing whether there's a place for me in heaven or not. I cannot not be me.
No, that was awesome. Thank you, Emmanuel. Very
Okay.
nice.